The first thing that struck me was the kind of story that I remember when I first went to Birmingham, I think about 8 years ago, because Kat and Yan Li had moved to Birmingham to start a Kung Fu school. And where the film is set it's set in a precinct that's made out of kind of concrete, 1960s concrete, rain-soaked concrete. And above the precinct lived a bunch of asylum seekers. And in the middle of the precinct was a chicken shop. And I remember we were walking towards the school across the precinct one evening as the light was coming down, twilight. And the only illumination in the precinct was the chicken shop. And next to the front door of the Kung Fu school was a bin, and there was a rat eating fried chicken out of the box in the bin. And it was such a powerful image that when Kat and Yan Li came up with the story to make the film, I thought what an absolutely amazing background to a doomed love story it would be to set it in a place like that. The thing was based on reality, but it wasn't kind of reality that most people experience. Like if you're kind of like middle class North London, you know, that's where you come from, you never really experience what it's like to be in places like that in England. And the reality of England is that it is a completely diverse place, and there are a lot of very rough places that people have to live. So as a backdrop, the kind of reality backdrop, it was kind of amazing, and that's really what I wanted to capture. The kind of most amazing thing about Birmingham is it has got such a diverse cultural population, but there isn't really much integration in the area that we were filming in, which is called Smethwick. It's mainly a kind of sort of Muslim area, so you don't really get many white people living there. So it's almost like it's racially segregated, even though there hasn't been a kind of, you know, a kind of reason for it being segregated, but it seems that people have ended up there like that. And the thing that resonated with me about that area was it's very similar to my story from when I was a child. My parents came here after the war, so I'm a first-generation immigrant, in the same way that the people of the area of Smethwick are first-generation immigrants. So there was a kind of cultural resonance that, you know, underpinned everything that I was looking at. I could relate to, even though it wasn't my culture, but it was the culture of displaced people. We'd been to China a couple of years before because over the past 10 years, I've been working with Yan Li and Kat making Kung Fu training DVDs, and a few years ago we were in rural China making some Qigong DVDs. So my experience there was, it was completely different to the experience that most Westerners have, because if you're a Westerner, you only go to Beijing or Shanghai, you don't actually get to live in you know, a small village in a small house. So when we went to China for the film, we had a very short time that we were there. We didn't have any money, we didn't have any equipment, we just went there kind of with the expectation that everything would come together, and like a miracle it came together. Within 5 days we had all the equipment we needed, we had the cast, we had the locations, and we were also living in Yan Li's brother's Kung Fu school, which is just outside Shaolin. And that was a kind of amazing experience because we were immersed in the culture. But because I'd been immersed in the culture before, it wasn't really alien to me. It was kind of like, almost like coming home. Casting was kind of interesting because the film is so low budget. We really didn't have any money to make the film. It was all self-funded. The interesting thing about it was that because of my relationship with Kat and Yan Li, we've been working together for 10 years. You know, I've seen their daughter grow up. So when Kat wrote the script and I'd already been to Birmingham, we did the filming in Birmingham, we shot some DVDs there, I'd experienced the real locations, I knew the whole story. I'd never met his mother, but I kind of knew the story of the mother, and I kind of know his brother and everything. It was kind of easy to work with Yan Li and Kat because they're like family. When it came to casting the rest of the cast, the problems with that we kind of overcame were that even though we had no money, I still had to get the right people for the job. So when I remember when Azim turned up, we had many people, you know, auditioning for Azim's part. But when the right guy turned up, it was amazing. You know, I just got him to say the lines and I knew he was the right person. And he was quite shocked that I didn't ask him to recite the lines again, because I knew that he was so right for the part. He was absolutely perfect. And when I gave him the slight direction that he needed to be a little bit kind of OCD, he took it on board and he had it in seconds, and it was absolutely perfect. With the rest of the cast, it was kind of mostly out of necessity that, you know, whoever turned up, as long as they kind of looked right, they kind of got the job, really, which isn't the kind of correct way of making films. But in the situation where you have no money, then the constraints that you're working under will actually determine the way that the thing goes forward. And I think what happened as a result of that, that the constraints worked in a positive way for us, and we got an amazing cast of people, you know, just by putting the call out.
I saw you leaflet at the chip shop. I watched all the movies. How long will it take before I become like Bruce Lee?
The kind of reason that I used Vass Blackwood was that I'd known him since I was 15. He's kind of North London in the same way that I'm North London. We were kind of knocking around with the same people. He became an actor. It was kind of quite amazing that he, you know, when he was in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, everybody remembers his character because of the wig that he was wearing, the lines that he said. And I remember when I was reading the script for the first time and I was talking to Kat about Lena's manager, something just struck a chord in my head, and I gave Vass a call saying, "Do you want to be in the film?" And he said yes immediately. The rest of it was kind of street casting. You know, we had to, if you kind of look at Yan Lee and Kat, that's a kind of prime example of street casting, because they are real people, but they're not real. They're playing themselves, or they're playing the characters in the film, but they're kind of basing it on their lives, but they are still acting it, because none of that stuff really did happen. I mean, yeah, there was a school in Birmingham, but it wasn't ever set on fire and there wasn't a big fight. But yeah, Kat did have a fight with dollars, and yeah, can't say any more about that.